Godly Contentment by TableTalk Magazine draws us into the quiet wisdom of 1 Timothy chapter 6, verse 6, where the apostle reminds us that true wealth is not measured in coins or comforts, but in a heart resting peacefully in the providence of God. In a restless world forever chasing more, this reflection gently calls us back to the simple treasure of Christ himself, teaching that when our joy is anchored in him, the shifting winds of circumstance lose their power over us. Now for our reading. Paul's words in 1 Timothy chapter 6, verse 6 are both simple and profound. Godliness with contentment is great gain. In a culture that prizes achievement, accumulation, and accolades, contentment seems almost foreign. Yet Paul reminds us that true contentment is measured not by possessions or status, but by a heart that rests entirely in God. Jeremiah Burroughs called contentment that sweet, inward, quiet, gracious frame of spirit which freely submits and delights in God's wise and fatherly disposal in every condition. This is not resignation, but spirit-fueled trust. It is the believer's joyful submission to God's providence, whether in plenty or in want. Paul himself learned this lesson. I have learned in whatever situation I am to be content. Notice that word, learned. Contentment does not come naturally. Left to our own instincts, we want, long for, desire and crave whatever we believe is essential to us. Instead, contentment is taught through God's providential leading. The secret that Paul discovered is that in life, Christ is enough. When our identity and joy are anchored in him, constantly changing circumstances lose their power to define us. Paul identifies the root of the problem, for the love of money is a root of all kinds of evils. Notice that he does not say that money is the root of all evil. The issue is not money itself, but the heart's craving for it. Greed blinds us from seeing our desires clearly. We rarely recognize it because we often compare ourselves to those around us, always finding someone with more. Discontentment is not about being rich or poor. It is about a restless heart seeking satisfaction, security, and significance apart from God. This craving exposes our heart's condition. When we look to other things for security or significance, we are actually breaking the first commandment. Discontentment often reveals what we actually worship instead of the God who deserves all our worship. Then what does Paul teach about contentment? First, we must recognize our poverty. We brought nothing into the world, and we cannot take anything out of the world. Recognizing our dependence on God humbles us and makes grace precious to us. Everything we have is a gift of grace. When we see life through this lens, gratitude replaces grumbling. Second, contentment rests in understanding God's providence. God richly provides us with everything to enjoy. Romans chapter 8, verse 32 assures us that the one who gave his Son will graciously give us all things necessary for life and godliness. As Charles Spurgeon said, "Had any other condition been better for you than the one in which you are, divine love would have put you there." Finally, contentment seeks God's presence. Earthly goods fade, but God himself is our portion forever. When he is our treasure, his presence and promises are enough for us. Contentment is found in a changed heart, one captivated by Christ. In him we have everything. This article was written by Reverend Joel E. Kim, who is President and Assistant Professor of New Testament at Westminster Seminary, California, and a teaching elder in the Presbyterian Church in America. He is author of Romans, Nothing But Grace, and co-editor of Always Reformed. This concludes our reading. Thank you for listening.